You are watching Xirtus.
There are cycles that are outside of solar cycles because the lunar calendar and the solar calendar align. So you could say the 12 cycle is certainly the solar calendar, right? It's definitely you've shown ample evidence already so far that's proven
Yeah.
that everything is associated so far with the sun in these calendars. But in
Yeah.
terms of cycles that we're using for multiple solar disks, like the Vedas talk about multiple disks and the moon being equivalent to the sun in that respect, then there's also
Yeah.
solar cycles. So you have also, and that also plays into the idea of like if there's cycles that align with each other, then there's kind of a leap cycle, right? And so in a leap cycle, you might consider these are the rare moments for, a 13 or kind of like a day out of time, which is what the
Yes.
Mayans talk about.
Yeah, it opens up a period of time, and so the Egyptians talk about this too. This was the time that Thoth gambled to get
Sorry.
Nut to be able to give birth, and she was able to a 5 day period to give birth to the five gods, right? So that's where Horus and Set and
Right.
you know, sorry, I'm gonna brain fart right now, but the
But also
five major,
the Mayan calendar has the 5 days out of time pretty commonly to connect the human gestation calendar with the solar calendar because the gestation calendar is based on the lunar calendar. So it's
yeah,
like a 260-day thing, which isn't enough for the proper year if you're trying to do. But like at the end of the day or the end of the
yeah.
year, they just have a moment at a time, which I'm calling it a day at a time, but it's like 5 or 6 days sometimes, right? So
Yeah, yeah. So that,
similarly,
yeah. So what it was in the story is that there was 360, a perfect circle, right? 'Cause it's 360. Where did the extra five come from? They uh they had everything worked out and perfected, but Nut wanted to have children, and so this gave an opportunity to fit an extra 5 days in there. That's where all the gods came from. It was from Thoth.
Osiris, Isis, Set, Horus. There's a goddess there.
Yeah, maybe, and yeah, maybe Kepra. I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember because it depends on the.
Nephthys.
Yeah,
Nephthys.
yeah, there you go. So yeah, those gods were given this time period, opens up an extra gate, right? If you think about it, of time period where these gods are able to come from, and they came from the galactic center, right? So really, you're actually at that galactic center when you're in Cancer, right? And this is again is the mother, which is the underworld, right? And this is why the Duat was the Milky Way, which is the underworld. And this opened up a time period when these characters could come out of the underworld. And it was because of Thoth. Because remember, Thoth figured out how to travel into the Duat and come back again. He was this rebirth character. He figured it out. He'd gone to the underworld and figured out how to get back again. So he is able to help, and he's like a trickster god, all this different stuff. So he's able to help with this process of being able to bring extra characters in when the cycle itself isn't working to create a change in aeons, right? It takes at least an aeon to pass before he's allowed to do it or something like that, or him and the characters that he's working with to bring these characters out of that. And the god Kepra is the scarab beetle, right, which has to do with rebirth and all that stuff, is associated with Cancer and the underworld, and then the moon, right? And the moon and the sun sit right next to each other at the top or the bottom of the zodiac, however you want to think of it. And it's like a male and a female aspect. The moon is the feminine aspect. So all the moon cycles and everything have to do with this female, and then there's this extra nakshatra, extra moon piece that's when this birthing can happen, right? And so they're pointing it out. They're really just pointing this out that there's a time period when this can happen. And this is when these hero characters can go into the underworld and try to help, in the stories, either a goddess or, or it's the female
Yeah.
going in and helping out a god get out of the underworld, right?
With the Egyptians, it is Nephthys because she's like the goddess of mourning, right? And
Yeah.
she's the one that can reveal to those who cannot like see. She's the one who can show what is hidden by moonlight, right? That's kind of even like the point of her
Yeah.
name is hidden by like knowledge or that which is hidden by moonlight, right?
Yep. And Isis, right, puts together her lost husband's body and stuff because Set tears
Yeah.
it up and throws it in, you know what I mean, into the water. So the Milky Way is also considered a river. It's also
Mm-hmm.
considered like the Nile, right?
And the
And everything.
sticks,
So all
yeah.
these stories of like the body being thrown all the pieces into the Nile, and then this crocodile helps them and everything. So we can get into like who
Oh
that crocodile
man.
character is and how it helps and everything and its association with Thoth, Horus. Like the crocodile has he's the only other character that has representations of himself mixed with Horus and stuff like that, right?
Right.
But you know, that gets into a whole nother show and story on its own. But
We'll have to get hard on Sobek, yeah, at some point.
yes, exactly. So yeah, it's all interconnected and everything. But so let me just try to move on here. Okay, so on this side, I am showing. See how there's Gemini here. This is a bad picture. I gotta get a better picture for it. But this is Orion.
Bethelgeist, I also like to say now, Bethelgeist. I think that's really
Yes.
what they're talking about.
Yep. And so that's Orion, right? And Orion's arm is going into the Milky Way. So on one side, Ophiuchus, his legs going into it, and on the other side, Orion's arm is going into it. So this is
So
important symbology.
if
They're
it's
doing this on
if
purpose.
if Orion is Bethelgeist, then that is the house of El's spirit, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's something kind of interesting about Bethelgeist. I've said it 3 times at least.
Yes, yeah. And you know, Cancer is associated with or Elizabeth, right, which is the Beth part, right? It means the promise of God, and it's associated with the rainbow, and that was what the promise was. That's why God gave us the rainbow or whatever, was the promise that he won't destroy us in a flood again, right?
Next
So
time,
that
next time it'll be fire, right?
yeah. So El, the house of God is promising. I think that's what Elizabeth means, like the promise of the house of God or whatever. So that's connected, and this is that I would argue that rainbow that we're talking about, right? So let me see. All right, so I
Man,
go
the
in a
first
little bit
time I heard
more.
about a micro flash flood, and my dad, I was like 10 or 8 or something, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's horrible. This whole town got wiped out. Like a lot of people dead." I'm like, "What? I thought God said there couldn't be another flood." Like, nope, God said not a worldwide flood. I'm like, "Oh, that's right."
Yeah,
Such a lawyer. Gosh.
yeah, yeah. It won't be a destruction that is huge with water, because obviously there are going to be more humans. It wasn't even a complete destruction because obviously we lived on past
And
it
it's
in the
just
first
far more
place.
efficient to use fire. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just easier.
yeah,
Purifying.
exactly. So here I just showing here's Ophiuchus, right? Winter solstice. See how the winter solstice lines up with it now? See how it says December 21st. This is actually sitting in between.
Wow.
Here's Scorpio and Sagittarius. So now winter solstice, or what we would call Capricorn, the zodiac or whatever, Jesus's birth time or whatever, is now um, headed into this galactic plane because you can see it right here. They show it, right? And it's actually closer than this. This is a little bit of a
God, that's
dated
really
picture.
funny in Back to the Future with like, oh, we can go to Jesus Christ's birth and then December 25th, 0000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
And
maybe an
then
inversion, but you know.
yeah. And so it's pretty much it would be touching the sun during this time period. I mean, whatever, this is just a representation. And then you see right here, up here, June 21st, right? Orion is touching the sun. And we know that that's where the galactic plane goes through. So right now we just clicked into place the galactic plane and our solstices, which is what I argue, if you really look at all the data, that this is what they were talking about the whole time. This is what a lot of guys are uncovering, of a warning of something, a destruction that happened in the past, and they had it on their monuments or whatever, that there's a time period, and it's this time period. It's when this happens. It's when the winter solstices, certain zodiac signs click into place with the galactic plane that they were interested in, at very least. Like I'm not going to say what exactly it means because that's something to uncover, but um,
A little
it's interesting.
synchronicity to note.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I'm just showing Ophiuchus, and I believe this is the ecliptic line right here. So that his leg is even going through the ecliptic, right? Kind of dives down in the ecliptic. So when you triangulate that the season, winter solstice, the ecliptic, and what the background is, which is the Milky Way, all cross, that's an important time period. And then I show here that the constellation of Capricorn is way over here. So that just, reiterating the same thing I keep saying, like the constellation is not the zodiac, it's not the solstice. You know what I mean? It just moved on. So, just one of those things I have continued argument. And then I just show that, look, here's the shape of it. That's Capricorn, right? And you see the same shape. So it's easy to recognize. And then I go into Sagittarius, show that,
I'm
what it
starting to
looks
see
like.
a time wave loop here. Yeah, it's like it's a sound wave, or
Yeah,
it's a wave. It's a wave. You know,
it's a wave. Yeah. So what we see, right, is we see it cross over like this, but this is our ecliptic right here.
and
We're
it's
all
all
sun.
one electron. We're talking about the singular R Sol Invictus, the sun.
Yes. Yeah. You're talking about a hydrogen being just one thing, and it's everywhere
Yeah,
at
and
once.
it's kind of an interesting thought just looking at this map also because of the idea of it being a singular wave that's following a pattern and is
Yeah.
pulling in these identities. We could call them identities or some or luminaries, right?
Yep. Yep. And then this is actually technically, I mean, it's just,
Oh, a ladder wave. Oh, Mythoclast. I love you. All right, someone Mythoclast. Send me your address. You get a T-shirt. That's good. All right, I'm happy.
so
You
this is
can DM me on
actually
Instagram or Discord.
actually collapsing into. So we're changing as we the top spins and we bobble like this. We're actually slowly not just moving backwards, but we're clicking like backwards. And so the Milky Way is actually coming closer and closer to being even with our ecliptic. Eventually it will, I don't know how many, you know, aeons when that will happen, but it's just another representation that shows that life tries to find balance eventually. It stops being these extreme waves and ups and downs, but we're on a different timeline specifically, I feel. So we're not waiting for that ecliptic and galactic plane to match up. That will be future generations of humanity way down the line that need to sort out more things and balance out more things. But we're on a different one that we need to sort out and balance things here in our, experience.